I think it's been a cracking result tonight. Genuinely, there's swell of Braverman votes being redistributed. People were suspecting they'd go to Liz or to Kemi en masse, but it's clear that Rishi's actually the winner tonight, and I was within touching distance of that. And I think that comes down to a really good performance in the two debates over the weekend. I think people are also starting to think about that next Prime Minister, who they want to see, and what they're going to do for them. And I think Rishi's in a really good place at the moment.
I mean, he has one big advantage. He actually looks like he might be a Prime Minister. It was. I always felt with David Cameron. Even though I disagree with almost everything he did, I fought against him pretty hard, as you well know. But I always thought when David Cameron walked down the steps of an aeroplane at a foreign capital somewhere, he actually looked like a PM should. And there's no question that Sunak can carry himself well. I don't doubt that for a minute. It's also quite interesting, Richard, that he can speak for 60 seconds without referring 3 or 4 times to the, which has been, quite frankly, some of that has been almost comedy gold from some of the other candidates. So I get all of that. But, you know, you're representing a red wall seat, cost of living, those issues impacting families in your constituency far more than in many constituencies in Surrey or Cheshire or wherever else we can talk about. And just the thought that here's a guy who is incredibly rich, which we shouldn't hold against him, but he is incredibly rich, continued to hold a green card, which wasn't really very bright, whose wife has avoided paying millions in tax. You're going to struggle if he was to get through and become the next Prime Minister. Aren't you going to struggle on the doorsteps to put that across to your constituents?
Well, a couple of things on that, Nigel. I mean, Rishi came to my constituency quite recently, visited AA Flags in the run-up to the Platinum Jubilee, was there with the seamstresses, small business owner, easy-going nature, easily chat with the people, also understood, having had that family background in working in a small business himself. So I think there's no...
Well, he worked at Goldman Sachs.
Well, but he worked when he was younger at his family's small firm, you know, and then, like you, he went and there's nothing wrong, and people are aspirational in places like North Australia as well.
I'm not knocking success in any way at all, and don't think I am, but the point I'm making, the point I'm trying to make here, and fine, you go to a factory setting and do an event, and it's a relatively antiseptic environment. It's not quite the same as the working man's club, is it?
Well, I would also say you go into the working man's club and you listen to what people say. Listen to what people say about Rishi. During the pandemic, Rishi was the one who really stepped up with furlough for workers, and he also stepped up with grants and loans for lots of those small businesses, which wouldn't be there without that support. I think you could have also seen more recently, during the Ukraine crisis, he's one who's been there putting out the packages there, mostly targeted at lower earners, but also, when he can, targeting tax cuts at lower paid people in work. So when I think of my area, he's raised the national insurance threshold, so anybody earning under £36,000 a year will be getting significantly more cash.
But a host of other taxes have gone up, Richard. And what about the self-employed?
I'm not doubting that, but when he has been able to cut taxes, where has he cut taxes? He's cut them on working people. He's also targeted that 5p tax cut on fuel. Now, that's fair enough to say, given the rising fuel prices, it's not enough. But when he has had spare cash, he's done.
Hang on. I mean, I keep hearing this. You know, I've heard it from Boris again and again and again, and I'm now getting it from you. You know, the tax burden's the highest it's been since Clement Attlee was Prime Minister. Let's not delude ourselves about any of this. For small businesses, for strivers, this guy's done nothing.
That's not true.
Apart from threaten them.
No, that's not true. I mean, he
literally threatened them during the pandemic.
No, first of all, he got grants, a lot of them, especially in the hospitality sector. Secondly, they got loans, basically interest-free loans, a huge amount of small businesses did. And thirdly...
No, anybody with a limited company working as a director was ineligible for loans.
But the businesses were not eligible for loans at all. They might get some relief. And also, he raised the threshold at which all businesses pay national insurance.
Even more important, short term, ultimately, your constituents and your voters are the ones that matter more than anything, and I get that and understand that. But, final thought on this. This electorate, you guys are going to put Rishi through to the last two. I can see that. Fine. Are the 160,000 Conservative Party members going to vote for a Chancellor who is seen to have put up taxes.
I think what they want is a Chancellor who's going to do the right long-term decisions for the country. The biggest concern I've had from my members, actually, is inflation over the last few weeks and the potential knock-on effect that has on interest rates. What people remember, my members, is they remember the early 90s when interest rates went through the roof and people lost their homes. What they want to see is somebody screwing down on inflation as quickly as possible, because if you give them tax cuts now, all you'll do is boost inflation, cause further problems down the line, and you get into a cycle. What they want to see is somebody who's got a proper long-term plan, deal with inflation
Well,
now.
he's overseen a big rise of inflation without ever noticing it, ever spotting it coming.
Deal with inflation now, and then...
He never saw inflation coming, did he?
Nigel, I think we both know that the Russia's invasion of Ukraine
Had nothing to do with it.
Had a huge amount.
Inflation was 7% before that.
We all know that there's a lot of that was due because people could see it was about to happen. That's why the oil price was rising so significantly before then. Gas price quadrupled.
I don't agree with that. I think a lot of it's monetary inflation, but we'll agree to disagree on that.